In order to boost the octane rating, apparently you need to add some acetone, and that'll make things a lot better. I mean, I'm not sure if you can use this stuff to turn regular gasoline into premium, into 98 octane. This is getting scary. This can't be. I mean, it is possible, but by this much? Hey there, fellows. Here's what we're doing in this one. We've gotten quite a few requests to try something that is very simple, namely adding oil to gasoline for the sake of boosting the compression, to get an engine to work decently, more or less. Right here I have a car that has done God knows how many kilometers, and the engine is not feeling good at all. That being said, there are a few old-fashioned Soviet recipes that we can also try. And so let's do that and see if they work or not. Okay, let's check the compression and see what condition this engine is in. The pistons and all of that. So looking at the gauge, we can see that we got a compression number of 10.8. Put to the floor. Oh, you already mashed it? Let's go. That's enough. And that is quite a difference. But then with 10 in this cylinder, it's really not that horrible. So look here, we've measured the compression, and it's more or less even across the board. 10 in two of them, 10.8 in one, and 10.5 in the last one. And so here's what I suggest we do. We don't have any specialized equipment at our disposal, so let's get some 92 octane gasoline. We'll make an impromptu fuel tank plus hanger, fill everything up, time the 0 to 100 km/h acceleration, then mix some oil into the gasoline, and with the oil getting fed into the cylinders with the fuel, that means additional lubrication and an obvious increase in compression. We'll then do another 0 to 100 run, and from there we're gonna try the old-fashioned methods that our ancestors resorted to, with much success apparently. Right, let's do this. Okay guys, here's the situation. We've disconnected the factory bits for the purpose of our testing, and we have fitted our sort of thermos-type fuel tank. The one we used in a past video of ours where we cooled and heated gasoline to see how that affects fuel consumption. And if you don't want to miss those sorts of experiments going forward, make sure to subscribe to our channel. And so we've got it in there, and the aim here is to figure out whether any of these methods actually work. And so with us we have brought a bit of regular 92 octane pump gas, and I suggest we start by using it to do a baseline run, without any modifications or additives. So for the time being, we're not going to be tampering with it. Okay, pour it in and let's see how the car accelerates. We're going to be timing the 0 to 100 time, and yeah, let's get to it. I am at the starting line, and here we go. We're obviously not expecting this car to pull off any sort of miracles. Almost there, and there we are. Okay, so the acceleration time was 17.6 seconds. And now we're gonna go ahead and drain the fuel tank, add some oil to the gasoline, mix it at a 1 to 100 ratio. We take 2 liters of gasoline, maybe a bit less. 1 to 100 it is then. That'll be 100 parts gasoline, 10 motor oil. What's going on back here, though? Can you give it some gas, Sergey? That seems all right, actually. Don't see any smoke. Apparently, the oil is combusting. There is no smoke. We're actually using oil for a 2-stroke engine, so it is going to combust. So it's doing that, everything is good, and we got no smoke. Okay, we're ready to do a timed run on oiled gasoline. Let's go. The race logic device is ready, so am I. And here we go. Look at it rev. Let's see what the result is going to be. Okay, 17.4. That's 0.2 of a second. There's barely any difference. The car accelerates about the same as it did. So this barely had any sort of effect on this engine's performance. Didn't really change anything. So that was with the oil. Though while I was driving the car to the starting line, the engine did feel more stable, I guess, when I was working the throttle. Because, you see, the engine was already running kinda poorly. But with the oil, it felt as if, I might be fooling myself here, because it's commonplace to feel as if the car drives better after you've done something to it, when in reality nothing changed whatsoever. Anyway, since we got the fuel in there, I suggest we return back to base, allow the engine some time to cool, because during that first measurement, the engine was neither hot nor cold. It was warm, so we'll do another warm compression test and see if that little bit of oil has increased the compression. And from there, we get to trying the old-timey methods that I mentioned. Okay, let's go. Right, so it's had some time to cool down. Let's check the compression. I'm super curious. In theory, we should see an increase. How big of an increase, if indeed there is any, we're about to find out. Enough? This is getting scary. Give it a couple of more turns. That is one hell of an increase. I don't believe in such miracles. I'm seeing 12, this can't be. It is possible, but by this much? Did we pour in too much oil? But then 1 to 100 seems like a reasonable ratio, in terms of bang for your buck. Go for it, full throttle. And that's enough. Really? Are you seeing this? So here's the situation. I'm actually quite amazed by this. The compression has gone up to 12 kilos. Interestingly, the compression has increased all the way up to 12 kilos. Amazing, but let's check the rest of the cylinders. What do we got? Enough? Slightly above 12. By just a smidgen. Enough? 12 flat. How has it gone up by 2 kilos? How am I supposed to know? Because of the oil? That was washed off. Yeah. Now let's try number 4. That's enough. Didn't quite get up to 12. 12, 12, 12, and 11.5. That is an amazing result. The compression has gone up, but as for the acceleration, well, 0.2 is not much of a difference. But then the engine did feel as if it was operating smoother. Like the throttle response was more pleasant, and the compression figures have evened out. Again, we didn't see a meaningful difference on the race logic device. The engine did feel slightly better to use, though. Now, obviously, oil-contaminated gasoline isn't a good thing, even though we are not seeing any smoke. So that's a good thing along with the even compression. But motor oil is going to burn inside the cylinders, leading to buildup on the pistons, the spark plugs, even with this being two-stroke engine oil. As we know, two-stroke engines operate at higher temperatures, and so any deposits probably get burned off, which I'd imagine wouldn't be the case in a four-stroke engine. In any case, the compression evened out, and we saw a slight improvement in the acceleration. Okay, we've tested the oil, and I've got a little something else here. It's actually a pretty popular thing when even a tiny amount of ethanol is added to gasoline. You see, the thing is that ethanol affects the combustion temperature. It doesn't burn quite as hot. And so, yeah, in many countries, especially where the climate is hot, they add alcohol to gasoline to lower the combustion temperatures, resulting in cooler exhaust gases and lower temperatures inside the cylinders, which in turn takes a bit of stress off of the engine, with it not getting quite as hot. Another benefit of ethanol is that it reduces knock. So if your engine starts to knock, for example, I've got a few vehicles that I ride, if it so happens that I fill them with low-quality gasoline and say here I am in the forest and the engine doesn't want to rev because of a knock situation, in that case I'm always carrying a bottle of ethanol with me. I can pour it in, start the thing, allow it to run, and then just go with no issues and the knock remedied. My engine is now happily running, life is good. As for how this affects the operation and output of this particular engine, well, let's pour this stuff in and find out, shall we? I say we add about 7% ethanol. Yeah, that should be enough, I reckon. And see how this car performs. Okay, let's get to it. We've mixed some ethanol into the gasoline. Let's see how this thing does. Here we go. This is an older engine. It feels happier to accelerate with the performance enhancer. That is 100 and the time is 17.4 seconds. The time doesn't seem to be changing. I guess the alcohol has made for a slight improvement. Again, it's an improvement of 0.2 compared to regular gasoline. Okay, here's what I suggest we try now. In order to boost the octane rating, apparently you need to add some acetone, and that'll make things a lot better. I mean, I'm not sure if you can use this stuff to turn regular gasoline into premium, into 98 octane. But we are experimenting, so I reckon we should try this out. The recommended dosage here is also 10%. Okay, pouring in a bit of acetone. That'll do. And the rest will be gasoline. You know, I think there are a lot of drivers out there. I'm sure plenty of people have noticed how when you're filling up your car, sometimes you get this weird smell coming from the gasoline you're pouring in, as if it actually does contain acetone. We're about to give this a try. And can you smell it? Yeah, I think you can. A fine scent of acetone. Oh yeah, damn. Can you smell it? Let's pour this in and see if the engine runs any different. Okay, accelerating on gasoline mixed with acetone. Let's see whether this is of any benefit or not. Here we go. Come on now. Right. Now that is pretty impressive, look at that. 16.8. Not bad at all. You're gonna love this. What's up? The car is genuinely quicker to accelerate. 16.8 seconds. So the acetone made for some interesting results. It would seem as if the gasoline combusts differently, making the car a bit quicker. We're seeing some changes. But we've got a couple of more fluids that we should try. Turpentine. Let me explain to you why we're using turpentine. Way back in the day, during Soviet times, and this is something that people of our generation definitely remember. You see, back then people used to have mopeds and motorized bicycles. And in a situation when an engine has pretty much lost all compression, it's barely able to start, but you need to sell it. There used to be a hack in that case. They'd mix turpentine with gasoline in a 50-50 proportion, pour the resulting mixture into the tank. The engine would go like hell, but only for a short period until the pistons would melt. And I've been meaning to try this with a car for the longest time. What if we try mixing us some of that jet fuel, consisting of 1 liter of gasoline and 1 liter of turpentine? What'll happen if we fill the car up with that stuff? Well, we're about to find out. I've got me a half-liter bottle of the stuff. 2, as a matter of fact. I'll pour in 1 liter of turpentine and another liter of gasoline. We'll give it all a stir, fire up the engine, and see how the car accelerates. Let's do this. It is making a lot of noise. The acceleration feels pretty strong. Oh wow. Impressive. 16.8. About the same as on acetone, isn't that something? That is some turpentine. But we used a lot more of it for the same result. 16.8 seconds. We added 10% acetone, while the turpentine to gasoline ratio was 50-50. I mean, it's not exactly fair to compare 2- and 4-stroke engines to each other, but these results are pretty curious. In one case, we added 10%, in the other it was half and half. And the acceleration was exactly the same, 16.8. Cool. But in order to determine whether any of these additives are effective, whether we can come to any definitive conclusions, well, we've gone ahead and purchased a bit of octane booster. It works exactly as advertised. It increases the octane rating of whatever gasoline it's added to, makes for an engine that accelerates good and doesn't knock. So let's try pouring this stuff in to see how the car is going to perform, shall we? For starters, we'll mix it in the right proportion. There's enough in this bottle to mix with 40 to 60 liters of gasoline. I say we go with the higher concentration. 310, so that's 7.5. Let's call it 7.5 to 7.7%. So 2 liters of gasoline would mean we need to pour 15 milliliters from this little flask. Okay, let's make us that mixture and see how the car fancies it. How it's gonna accelerate. Okay, well, here we go. Oh, wow! We are moving! There we are, 16.7. I guess it worked to an extent. This is just terrific. The car is getting faster and faster. We're already at 16.7. Before you know it, it'll be under the 16-second mark. Yeah, we're almost there, I'd say. Then we'll be in the 14s, but what do we use at that point? Off to the drags. Well, we need to make the right fuel first. So as it turns out, these fuel additives, they actually work. Tough to say how hard they are on the engine. You'll need some long-term testing to determine that. The only thing we can say for certain is that the oil is going to form deposits on the plugs, the tops of the pistons, and we all know that a dirty engine is not a good thing. But here's something else I'd like to try. I've got me this awesome stuff, and we only used 15 millimeters of it mixed with 2 liters of fuel. But what if into that same 2 liters we were to pour this entire bottle? So I'm gonna pour whatever we got left into our makeshift fuel tank, top it off with a bit of gasoline, and do some testing. Octane booster in, and here we go. Something tells me this isn't gonna work. It hasn't gotten any better. But then, take a look at that, 16.9. Yeah, you could feel that the engine wasn't really up to it. The engine note was already a telltale sign that something was off. So too much octane booster doesn't do the engine any favors, as we've learned. I'd still say this was a pretty interesting experiment, though. Now we know how these fluids affect engine operation. Whether they made it any better or worse, you can be the judges. Also, it's your call what liquids you should pour into which systems. And that is it for this video. Catch you guys later.